Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Ange Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the fantasy football Week 3 quarterback start or sits. Basically, going to be going over my top 17 quarterbacks for the Week 3 of the regular season. I'm also going to give you 4 of my starts and 2 of my sits for the quarterback position. Now, before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who is subscribed to my YouTube channel, continues to support me, asks questions in the comment section. Now, really quick, before we get getting into this video, comment section. I will answer all of the questions. There are many of them. I will get to you, I promise. But if you guys could, just, help each other out. Be a community. Answer each other's questions as much as you possibly can. If you don't feel comfortable answering a question, no problem. I'm just saying for those of you who do, answer each other's questions, talk to each other, strategize. Think, what would Andrew do? Would Andrew start Andy Dalton when he's going to throw 4 touchdowns? No. So, you get it. Anyway, again, thank you for the support. I appreciate it a lot, guys. Can't thank you guys enough. And if you haven't already, go down, subscribe to my YouTube channel to continue to get great content. Also, timestamps will be in the description, so don't miss that. Hey, everybody, how's it going? Okay, so my starts of the week, right? So I'm going to go with my 4 starts, then I'm going to talk about 2 sits, and then I'm going to get into my rankings and why I think it should be as such. So my first 2 starts, I'm going to be talking about Matthew Stafford going against the New England Patriots this week and Jared Goff versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Woo! Okay. Anyway, so let's talk about Matthew Stafford, right? He's playing against a very, very dodgy defense, a defense that let Blake Bortles absolutely tear them apart. The New England Patriots defense did not look good on Sunday at the slightest bit. When Blake Bortles is showing up with wide receivers that, many people aren't, acclimated to at this point, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook, Dante Moncrief, these are not names that people are accustomed to, right? When Blake Bortles can show up and just dominate your defense and your secondary with these and without Leonard Fournette. Anyway, all I'm saying is with Matthew Stafford, Matt Patricia, head coach Matt Patricia going against his mentor Darth Sidious, aka Bill Belichick. I think Kenny Galladay, I think Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, Matthew Stafford are set to have a really good game against a very bad defense. That's why I have Matthew Stafford as one of my starts of the week. Again, if you haven't, if somebody in your league has dropped him and you haven't put in waivers yet and you're thinking, my quarterback is Alex Smith, do I trust him against Green Bay? Or I have Andrew Luck versus the Eagles. Can I trust that? I would suggest Matthew Stafford. As I get into the rankings a little bit later, you will see. Anyway, the next person I want to talk about, Jared Goff, okay? The Los Angeles Rams are playing the Los Angeles Chargers, okay? See, I didn't mess that up. So, Jared Goff. Now, why do I think Jared Goff's going to have a good week? Last week against the Cardinals, didn't really do much fantasy-wise, but the thing was, when Todd Gurley scored in 3 rushing touchdowns, and the Cardinals aren't imposing their will offensively, it just becomes a game of, let's just practice 4th and 1, because they went for it a couple times on 4th down. Let's just practice a couple plays here and there. Let's put in the second string running back and see what he can do. It honestly just became a scrimmage after halftime, honestly. The Cardinals just couldn't do much, and I think Jared Goff going against a similarly bad defense, I think that the Chargers, having given up 20 points to the Bills last week, a Josh Allen-led Bills team, I think, and especially they got torn apart and torched by Patrick Mahomes in week 1. I think that there's a potential that Jared Goff can do the same with Brandon Cooks, just unbelievable speed. Robert Woods looked great last week. Cooper Kupp is consistently going to be a wide receiver 3 flex position on a weekly basis. I think this high-powered and high-scoring 30-point-per-week offense as of right now is going to be very, very comfortable in Los Angeles this weekend against their hometown rivals. I don't know if they're rivals, but hopefully it becomes one rivalry. I like Jared Goff this week as one of my weekly starts. Okay, my next 2 guys I want to talk about, all right? Before we get over to the guy that has a beard, and I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, okay? We got GQ Jimmy Garoppolo, one of my starts of the week last week, right? I said because of the fact they're playing the Lions, you should absolutely start them. Jimmy Garoppolo looked okay. Without Marcus Goodwin, Dante Pettis and George Kittle and what's his name? Pierre Garçon. They're nothing much, right? Hopefully he can get Marcus Goodwin back. But I like the matchup this week against the Chiefs, a defense that is, has to play a shootout, right? In week 1, Phillip Rivers absolutely was an animal. 4 touchdown passes. Still lost the game, doesn't matter. This past weekend, Ben Roethlisberger also had 4 touchdowns. Didn't matter because it's a shootout. The Chiefs do not pride themselves on their defense. They pride themselves on their ability to outscore you. I think it's going to be another potential shootout in Kansas City this weekend, and I like Jimmy Garoppolo because of that. So, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the beard, Ryan Fitzmagic. I'm done. It's over, okay? I'm saying it right now. He's one of my starts of the week, and, you should start him. Playing against the defense that just got scorched for 6 touchdown passes by Patrick Mahomes, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, who just decimated the Eagles defense, I get it. Okay, a couple of you will be like, decimated? I'm an Eagles fan. That's BS. You don't know what you're talking about. Listen, if you can go and play the Super Bowl defending champs, I get it. They don't have an offense. But if you're putting 27 points on them, you're doing something right. Okay? You're doing something right. I don't care. A fluke play, a touchdown here, 70-yard touchdown there. It's BS. I don't care. He's doing it. Fantasy-wise, this is value. I like him this week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me see. Is this a home game for them? It is a home game for them. It is at Tampa Bay. I think this is a very good matchup for him. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick this weekend. I mean, coming off of 2 of his best performances in his career, I like him in this next week, and I like him keeping the starting spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the rest of the season, unless Jameis, I don't know, unless something else happens. All right, let's talk about my sits, okay? I only got 2 sits this week, and they're guys, because I thought to myself, do I really want to say sit Dak Prescott, or do I really want to say sit Sam Bradford, or, Ryan Tannehill, stuff like that? Not really. Not really interested in going through that. I want to talk about guys you may consider starting. Phillip Rivers is going to be number 1, right? They're playing against that Rams defense. And that Rams defense has not let up a point since halftime at the Raiders game. So in the last 6 quarters, they have not given up a single point. I understand they played against the Cardinals and the Raiders, who weren't great teams. The Rams did, excuse me. And Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback that could potentially score on them. But all things considered, I think this week against the Rams is not a great matchup for him. I just want to keep that warning out there. Now, in my specific case, right, I play in a super flex league. Okay, I'm going to start Phillip Rivers this week. Why? Because I have to, all right? I don't have that third quarterback option that's, a better play than him, right? So I have to play him. So if you're in that specific case where you're thinking, well, there's nothing on the waivers that I really want, I don't want to have to drop anybody, I'm just going to play him, that's fine. I'm just giving you the fair warning that Phillip Rivers against this defense may be a recipe for disaster. There is a potential that Phillip Rivers, turns over the ball a couple times, and I don't know how Melvin Gordon's injury is going to affect it, but we'll see. Okay, the last sit. Derek Carr came off a really good week 2 performance. Okay, they didn't win the game, doesn't matter. But when I mean really good performance, he looked a lot better than he did week 1. Right, 3 interceptions, turn it around, and have almost 90+ completion percentage. Had 1 touchdown, he still can't find a way into the end zone. And that's tough, right? But the Raiders aren't really built for that, I don't think. After giving up Michael Crabtree, they've really gotten rid of one of their high-end red zone pieces. Jordy Nelson is not going to step up into that role. And Jordy Nelson is not really a wide receiver, too, within this offense. He's practically disappeared. Hopefully, there's going to be a mid-season trade, and the Packers have reacquired Jordy Nelson. Actually, that would not be good for me. I have Devontae Adams in many of my leagues, and that is a terrible idea. So no. You didn't hear that, Packers GM. I know you're watching this, but don't think about it. So overall, Derek Carr, I know he played decently. I know he has an okay matchup this week versus the Dolphins. I still just don't like him this week as a start. Fair warning. There it is. Okay, now let's get right into my rankings. If you have any questions regarding these rankings, the comment section is below. If I don't have anybody on these rankings that you may be considering starting, understand that there is a reason they are not here. because I don't really think they're worth starting. Perhaps you just don't have any of these guys. Okay, understandable. You have Blake Bortles, go for it, We'll see. But as of right now, what do I have as my top 17 ranked quarterbacks? It's more than half the quarterbacks in the league, so this should give you a pretty good sample size of what I think is going to happen this weekend. I got Patrick Mahomes at number 1, playing against the okay defense of the 49ers. Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins these past 2 weeks pretty much worked this defense. It's not a great defense, and I think Patrick Mahomes on fire, 10 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. The way I see it, he has to be your number 1. If he's on your roster, he has to start, plain and simple. No way around it. Okay, number 2, I got Tom Brady playing against the Lions defense. Now, I said that Matthew Stafford should be a start. Now, Tom Brady is also a start. It's just he's an obvious start, so I don't have to mention that. Tom Brady against the Lions defense, it's not great. I think coming off of a week, they got shellacked for majority of the game versus the Jaguars. I think this is going to be a piece of cake game for them. They might want to run the ball a lot, which might give a little bit of extra value to like Sony Michel, Burkhead, and James White. But I still think Tom Brady, with the newly acquired Josh Gordon, I don't know if he's going to play. We'll see how that hamstring injury holds up. I think Tom Brady is a good number 2 ranked quarterback for this week, for week 3. My number 3 ranked quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think it's these top 3. These top 3 guys that I have up above, right? It's a shootout, right? These 3 games are going to be shootouts. They don't have great. Look, they have good defenses, right? They just don't manage to show up on Sundays. Sorry, it is what it is, right? So fantasy-wise, this is how it is. I'm going to have Ben Roethlisberger at 3. I think he's going to continue to tear it up. Pieces like Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner maybe gets a little bit of work in the passing game. I doubt it. James Washington played a high number of snaps. Jesse James looks like a stud as of late. The way I see it, I think, excuse me, I think that Ben Roethlisberger is a for sure start. He's my number 3 ranked quarterback. My number 4 ranked quarterback, we have Aaron Rodgers versus the Washington Redskins this weekend. A Washington Redskins defense that looked great in week 1, but whoops, they played the Cardinals. The Cardinals are terrible. And they played against Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was able to absolutely just, yes, he turned over the ball twice, no big deal. But he was able to impose his will at some points in the game. And he was able to, without a run game, honestly, I don't think Jordan Wilkins and Marlon Mack are contributing too heavily there. But with what he had, I think he was able to produce. So why can't Aaron Rodgers, with Aaron Jones coming back, maybe establish a little bit of a run game? The production team has messed up again, everybody. I'm a little tilted. Ooh, the production team. Okay, well, we'll get to that. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers is my number 4. Is he really my number 4? Should somebody else have been there? Give me a second. I got to look up and down this list real quick. Because there, for some reason, perhaps, okay, well, I need to throw up like an intermission sign and start playing some like elevator music. Okay, well, you know what? I'm looking at my list, and I think maybe everybody needs to be shifted up one. I think that's perhaps what it is. I think last week I only had 16, but we're still running with it. Either way, Aaron Rodgers, you have to start him. He's Aaron Rodgers. You paid the price, and he should be good. Yes, he didn't play great last week, right? He only had 1 touchdown pass. Understandable against the Vikings defense, and I can't believe that game was a tie. But Aaron Rodgers, great start. Get him going out there. Kirk Cousins, my next quarterback on my list. I think from what he showed on Sunday against the Packers, I understand the Packers defense isn't great, right? But they're playing the Bills this week, right? So what is the Buffalo Bills going to do? The guy that retired at halftime, Vontae Davis, well, there goes the cornerback. I think Kirk Cousins, good start this week. He's a top 5 quarterback throughout the rest of the season. I said it before the season started. People don't believe me. You like that, people. I'm telling you, Kirk Cousins, oh, man. With that offense, as long as they get a kicker, they're not going to They're not going to lose many games. Excuse me. My next quarterback, right? So we've repeated Aaron Rodgers. Listen, I got rid of the production team last week. I had to rehire them for this episode. I apologize. I will get it done. They're not in right now, but once, I'll make sure I give them a call and make sure they don't show up tomorrow. My next quarterback, Drew Brees against the Falcons. I think Drew Brees usually has decent games. I mean, as of late, being forced to pass the ball more because of Mark Ingram's absence, I would say, Drew Brees has been more of a I don't know if they're a pass heavy more than they need to prioritize the pass because Alvin Kamara isn't really a first and second down running back. And that's just what it is, right? I can't blame Aaron Rodgers. I actually like that Drew Brees. I don't know why I've tilted myself, people. I've tilted myself really quickly. Let me just sit here for a second. I'm going to regather my thoughts on the matter before I spew anything, okay? Okay, we're back. Boom. Drew Brees this past week, okay? I would say, comparatively to last season, he's playing more of, like Drew Brees that we know of. Last season, he threw the least amount of passing attempts in his, in the last 8 years. He threw the least amount of passing touchdowns he has in the last 8 years. Drew Brees last week against a pretty solid Cleveland defense was able to, be a decent quarterback. I think this week against the Falcons, a team that he's comfortable facing, a team that doesn't have a great defense, Cam Newton was able to do some stuff in the second half there, especially with Christian McCaffrey catching 11 balls. I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a great week. I think Drew Brees is a good start. He's my number 7. He probably should be 6. Irrelevant. My next guy, my start of the week, Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford, as I mentioned before, against a New England defense that couldn't stop Blake Bortles for their life, a defense who is, they haven't been able to do anything for the last couple seasons, right? The Patriots have had to outscore everyone. They couldn't do in the Super Bowl. They struggle on defense. Matthew Stafford's going to be able to take advantage of it. There's not too much of a pass rush coming, even though Matthew Stafford's line is a little shaky at times. I 100% like Matthew Stafford this week. He's my start of the week. Watch out for him. He could be a guy to top the list and become a number 1 quarterback. You're just going to have to wait and see. My number 9, another one of my starts of the week, Ryan Fitzpatrick, going against the Steelers in Tampa Bay. As I mentioned before, should have a good week. I mean, all signs point to him having a good week, okay? Just as long as, a storm doesn't fly in and rain out the entire game, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is a solid start this week. We're hitting it up with another one of my starts of the week, Jimmy Goat Garoppolo, the Galapagos Islands. Again, as I mentioned before, I'm not going to reiterate it much more than they play against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a shootout. Start him. Number 11, Cam Newton. Stepped up. He, in my opinion, he stepped up last week, right? Yes, week 1 wasn't great. They played against the Dallas defense, who's a lot better than people may think. Going against the Bengals this week, they're going to be at home. They're going to be in Carolina, a comfort place for Cam. I think that with the absence of Greg Olsen due to the injury, there's going to have to be somebody else that steps up. It was DJ Moore. It was Torrey Smith. I think as these wide receivers continue to get more comfortable within the offense, Cam Newton will be able to deliver the ball to anybody else besides Christian McCaffrey and Funches, which will help him out. I like him at number 11 as a QB1 this week. My last start of the week, Jared Goff, I'm having him at number 12, going against a Chargers defense that can't stop a soul. They couldn't even stop the Buffalo Bills, people. Jared Goff, fire him up. Let's get him in the lineup. I understand that there's a potential for Todd Gurley to score another, 4 rushing touchdowns, but I'd like to think that the Chargers could figure it out and stop him from doing so and give Jared Goff some some much-needed fantasy value. My number 13, Andrew Luck versus the Eagles. This is kind of a tough one. I thought to myself, did Andrew Luck do enough this week to prove that he could score on the Eagles? I don't know if that's really what I should be asking myself. The real question is Andrew Luck as good as Ryan Fitzpatrick? I think the answer is yes. I think that, yes, this is going to be a difficult matchup. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park considering they're playing at Philadelphia. So I'm going to say that Andrew Luck's going to have a relevant week, but he's not going to be out of his mind great. He's my number 13 quarterback. My number 14, Alex Smith against the Green Bay Packers, a defense that isn't great. We saw Kirk Cousins absolutely dice him up. It was second half dice him up, okay? They fell apart after a while. A couple lucky passes here and there, but that's irrelevant, okay? Alex Smith doesn't really have a number one wide receiver as of right now. He has a number one running back who is playing as their number one wide receiver, Chris Thompson. I think that hopefully Alex Smith going against a weaker defense with a good offensive line, they're going to run the ball. It's probably not going to be a success for them initially. I don't really feel like Adrian Peterson is going to continue his tear. So I think that there is going to be potential for Jordan Reed, Jamison Crowder, Chris Thompson, Paul Richardson to contribute a little bit more, maybe Josh Jackson within this offense. I think they need a wide receiver. I think they need Des Bryant, to be honest. I'm just saying. I like Alex Smith at 14. My last two quarterbacks. Oh, my shoulder, my neck, my back. Hello. Number 16, Deshaun Watson. A guy who somehow lost to the Titans last week. I don't understand how, but he plays offense. Can't really blame him, except for the fact that he didn't score. I mean, it's pretty insane. Both Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins in half-point PPR had 20-plus points, and, Deshaun Watson didn't look great. So, obviously, they want to go for the deep ball with Will Fuller. Obviously, they want to dice you up play after play, continuing to throw to to DeAndre Hopkins. I think Deshaun Watson, he regressed a little bit from last season. Obviously, we all saw it coming. Some of us obviously didn't, and we drafted him high. There's going to be regression. The offensive line is not good enough to hold him and allow him to just completely read every single route and just understand what is developing out in the field. I think there's a possibility that he does start to turn it on as the weeks start to go, but as of right now, I don't really trust him very much. That's why I have him at 16. My number 17 quarterback, Russell Wilson, dropped a little bit this week. I thought that against the Bears, he'd be capable of being able to produce, pretty good fantasy numbers. I think I had him in the top 10 last week. Wasn't great. His offensive line didn't look great against Khalil Mack, to say the least. He turned over the ball a couple times, but that's really offensive line problems. This coming week, playing against, where are we at here? Playing against the Cowboys, who like the blitz. I'm telling you, they like the blitz. And if you're bringing obviously they're going to prepare, they're going to watch film. But Russell Wilson this coming week, they don't really have much of a run game. They don't really have much of a wide receiver one-esque kind of guy out there. I mean, who had the most receptions this past week? Excuse me. Let me just go ahead and go through this. 5 receptions was Tyler Lockett and a touchdown. Brandon Marshall, 4 receptions, didn't look great. The rest, they didn't really have a running game themselves. And they're not throwing the ball enough because they can't stay on the field without going 3 and out. And that's number 17, Russell Wilson. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you have any questions, go down below. If you want to answer some questions and do me a favor, I will answer the questions. I promise you before Thursday, they will be done. I'm going to probably, after this video, go and start answering questions as we speak. And anyway, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you want some more content, I will have running backs coming out really soon for my running back rankings of week 3. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Until next time, I'll see you. Stay classy and make sure you start Ryan Fitzpatrick this week.